what's going on YouTube? Welcome to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. Today I'm going to be covering Thresh, the Chain Warden.
What delightful agony we shall inflict.
So let's kick off this guide by looking at Thresh's pros and cons. First, Thresh is a champion with very strong engage and disengage. He's going to be able to pull enemies into you or knock them away from you, either getting you some kills or keeping you safe. This of course means he has some pretty damn solid crowd control, and he also has a scaling passive. Your passive is going to give you some ability power and armor, and if you do get into those really long games, you're going to be a pretty damn strong champion. Thresh also has his Lantern ability, which is fantastic for saving your allies. If your ally gets caught in a bad position, use your Lantern to pull them to safety. And for our last pro here, Thresh is great at finding picks for your team. That means even though support champions can't usually carry unless you are AP carry kind of support, Thresh can actually offer a lot. If a Thresh can get a pick on a squishy target in the late game, that can sometimes be enough to win the game for you. Now Thresh, however, needs some team communication. Your Lantern ability is much more effective when you're communicating with your allies since you can pull them to safety. This means they can be a lot more aggressive than they usually would be. Thresh also has some pretty low damage and very long cooldowns. That means, especially in the early game, you have to be very careful when you're using those abilities because if they do miss or you waste them, you're not going to have very much to offer your ally. For your Masteries, you want to go 18 Resolve and 12 Cunning, grabbing Courage of the Colossus as your Keystone Mastery. You can easily proc this Keystone over and over again on Thresh with either your Q or your E ability, and it makes him a lot tankier since you get a really beefy shield. For the rest of your Masteries, you'll just want to get increased tankiness from the Resolve side, and of course Bandit from the Cunning side. Some of your abilities also do have a pretty high mana cost, so you also want to make sure you take Meditation just to keep your mana pretty high. For your runes, you want to go for attack damage reds, health yellows, magic resist blues, and armor quins. The health, magic resist, and armor is going to give you a lot of tankiness in the lane phase, and you're going to be a really hard champion to bully. You then want to take that attack damage just so you can last hit minions a little bit easier with the relic shield, and of course your harassment is going to be a little bit better as well, since a lot of it comes from your empowered autos. For alternatives, you could of course take scaling health, magic resist, or armor, but usually I like the flat stats just so my early game is as strong as possible. For your summoner spells, you first want to grab Flash and then take either Ignite or Exhaust. Flash is required because Thresh is a fairly immobile champion and it can be used multiple times in a single game to save your life. You of course also have the option of flashing aggressively and then either flaying the enemy or hook them with Death Sentence to catch them off guard and engage from afar. If I'm with a strong early game AD carry, then I'll usually grab Ignite to add some extra damage into the lane and try to get it snowballing. If, however, you're with a weak early game AD carry or there is a bunch of assassins on the enemy team, then you will have to take Exhaust to shut down their damage. Your passive is Damnation, and this is a really strong passive that allows you to gain bonus ability power and bonus armor as the game progresses. Thresh's basic attacks do not use projectiles, and his basic attack windup is only reduced by 0.25% per 1% bonus attack speed compared to the standard 1 per 1. Enemies who die near Thresh drop souls for 8 seconds, which he can collect by either approaching them or by placing Dark Passage's Lantern near them. Each collected soul permanently grants Thresh 0.75 bonus ability power, 0.75 bonus armor, increases Dark Passage's shield strength, and flays minimum bonus damage by 1. So this is a pretty damn strong passive because you are passively gaining stacks. Of course, as long as you walk over the souls or use your Dark Passage's Lantern. Pick these up whenever you can because as long as you are, you're going to be pretty strong in the late game with all this bonus ability power and armor. Your Q ability is Death Sentence, and that's pretty much what it is. If you can catch something squishy and you have allies to follow up, it's a Death Sentence. On first cast, after a 0.5 second delay, Thresh throws out his scythe in the target direction and forms a tether with the first enemy hit, dealing magic damage and stunning them for 1.5 seconds. Hitting an enemy reduces Death Sentence's cooldown by 3 seconds. On second cast, Thresh dashes to the tethered enemy, removing the stun but becoming able to attack again. So this is a really strong ability because it is a 1.5 second stun, and you can also pull yourself to an enemy and follow up with the rest of your kit, CCing them for days. On a squishy target, if you have a bunch of allies around, this is pretty much certain death unless they have Flash. During the lane phase, you'll want to try to land this as much as possible because you'll be able to trade a lot of free damage because of the stun. In the later stages of the game, try to find picks with this ability as much as you can, and if you do land it, take yourself to the target and use your flay. Your W ability is Dark Passage, and it's great to save your allies or to pick up souls that are in an unsafe area. When activated, Thresh throws his lantern in the target direction, remaining up to 6 seconds, revealing its immediate surroundings and collecting nearby souls for the duration, shielding the first ally to come up to it for 4 seconds, and automatically returning to Thresh if he moves from 1500 units away from it. Allies can pick up the lantern by right-clicking it, dashing to Thresh's location, and shielding themselves for the same duration. So the main way you're going to be using this ability is to pull people out of bad situations, since of course they can right-click this and jump to you. If you are behind them, they can get back to you and they will be safe. It is, however, also really strong if you are trying to engage into the enemy team. You can also use this to pull an ally towards you so they can engage into the enemy. This is a great way to get the jungler into your lane. Finally, if souls are in an area you really don't want to go to because you will take a bunch of damage, then you can use this to collect them. You don't actually have to go to the souls. Your E ability is Flay, and it adds some nice extra damage onto your autos and can also be used to peel people or pull them towards you. Passively, Thresh's basic attacks deal bonus magic damage, increasing with time spent not attacking enemy units or neutral monsters. When activated, Thresh sweeps his chain in a broad line towards the target direction, dealing magic damage to enemies hit, knocking them in the chain's direction and slowing them afterwards for 1 second. So the first part makes Thresh a pretty good lane bully because if he can charge this ability, his autos are actually going to hit pretty damn hard. It has up to a 200% AD ratio. That means in the lane phase you'll want to let this charge and then use the empowered autos to trade effectively. It can also make last hitting minions with your relic shield a lot easier. Now when you activate this ability, you can also use it to peel for your allies or pull them towards your allies. Another combo I like to do with this ability is use the Flay to knock them towards me a little bit more and slow them, so my Q ability is much easier to land so I can crowd control somebody for a long ass time. Your ultimate ability is the Box, and it applies a really strong slow that also does some pretty decent damage. When activated, after a 0.75 second delay, Thresh summons 5 spectral walls, each lasting for up to 5 seconds. Walls break upon contact with an enemy champion, dealing magic damage and slowing by 99% for 2 seconds. Enemy champions hitting any wall beyond the first take no damage and are slowed for only 1 second. So this is a pretty solid ability, especially in team fights, because it does have 5 walls and it applies a really strong slow, so enemies that walk through them are not going anywhere. When you find a pick on a squishy champion, it's also really strong because you can drop this when you do Q towards the target and flay them through a wall so they take the damage and are slowed, which will easily allow your team to follow up. In team fights, try to drop this right in the middle so people don't have any choice but to go through it. For my skill order, I first like to put a point to my ultimate whenever I can at 6, 11, and 16. Then I'll focus on getting 3 points in my E ability first. This is going to give you a lot of extra damage early in the lane phase and allow you to bully the enemies. Getting more than 3 points is definitely not worth it in my opinion, but it is still viable. So after I get the 3 points in my E ability, I focus on maxing my Q. I do this so I can reduce the cooldown on my Q ability as much as possible. I'll then max my W ability afterwards to do the exact same thing because pulling your allies out over and over again is pretty amazing. Then, for the end, I get the last 2 points in my E ability. Maxing either your E ability or your Q ability first are both very viable, but I definitely prefer this a lot more. Now let's look at a couple of your AD carry synergies, and first up is Draven. The reason you work so great with a Draven is because he's looking for an aggressive support that can get him some kills and get him snowballing with his passive, and that's exactly what you can do. As long as you can land some death sentences or flays, he's going to be able to follow up with all of his damage and get some pretty easy kills. He also really likes a support champion that can peel for him, and of course Thresh also does that. Another AD carry you work great with is Callista. The reason Thresh and Callista are so great together is because she can use your ultimate to throw you into the fight and allow you to easily land your CCs since you're going to already be by the enemies. She'll also be able to stack a bunch of spears on the targets while you CC them and get off a big chunk of damage. If you do decide to jump into a fight and you do get caught in a bad situation, she can also use that ultimate to pull you out and save you. Next up would be Misfortune, and she's great with Thresh because if he can land his hooks and flays, she's going to do a ton of early game damage and destroy those targets. In the late game teamfights, they're also incredibly strong together because if you drop your ultimate, you're going to hold multiple targets in an area, and if she follows up with her ultimate, she's going to absolutely destroy them. She also doesn't have a built-in escape ability, so she does really appreciate peeling, and of course you provide that as well. Last up I have Twitch, who's another champion that likes to build up his damage, and as long as you can apply all of your crowd controls, he's going to be able to, and burst the enemy champion. He's a really strong late game team fighter, and if you can hold people in an area with your box, he's going to destroy them with his ultimate. Yet again, he's not the most mobile champion out there, so he does really appreciate your peeling, so keep him safe and allow him to destroy those targets. During the lane phase, you'll want to try and keep your AD carry protected at all times with your strong peeling and your dark passage. You have a ton of different ways to get them out of a bad situation, so make sure you're positioned correctly so you can pull them out of danger if it is required. You should also be looking to land your death sentence on the enemy so you can trade a bunch of free damage and possibly get an easy kill. You can use your flay to knock the enemy backwards and slow them, so landing your death sentence is a lot easier. Remember that you won't want to be too aggressive if you do have a weak early game AD carry. Focus on getting them as much farm as possible so they can carry you in the late game instead. In teamfights, there's two main things you can do, and it depends a lot on the champions on your team. They are 1. Peeling for your carries, and 2. Being a frontliner while trying to crowd control high kill priority champions. I'll generally hang around my AD carry or AP carry and peel for them when necessary so they can do the damage that they need to. If the enemy team has some fed carries and nobody can get to them, you may want to try to stop their damage. In a normal teamfight though, you should use your peel and get crowd controls on the enemy carries as much as you can. Now let's look at some of your hard matchups, and first up would be Janna. The reason Janna is going to be pretty hard for you is because of her really strong disengage. If you're able to jump onto one of her squishy allies, she can use either her Q ability or her ultimate to push you off of them and save her ally. In this matchup, you may want to consider hooking the Janna and going onto her, because if you do go on the AD carry, she's going to save her over and over again. The next hard matchup would be Leona. She's going to be pretty hard for you because even if you engage onto her AD carry, she's going to stun you and save her AD carry that way. If you then end up hooking the Leona, even if you go towards her and start auto-attacking her, you're going to do pretty much no damage. The one good thing for you here is if she does try to jump onto your AD carry, you can always use your Flay while she is mid-jump and it will be cancelled. Make sure you cancel it as much as possible. Done. For the next hard matchup, I've got Taric. Taric is going to be pretty annoying for you because even if you can land a hook on a squishy target, he's going to be able to shield them with his W and activate his ultimate if he does need to keep them alive. During the lane phase, he's also a pretty strong champion because peeling with his stun is pretty decent, and of course he also has sustain, and you do not. Alright, now let's finish this off with the item build, which starts with either a relic shield, health potion, and a warding totem, or a coin, health potion, and a warding totem. In my opinion, the relic shield is a lot better, but the coin is also pretty decent. For the core build, you want to go for Face of the Mountain, Ruby Sightstone, and a locket. This is going to give you some great tankiness and multiple shields, which is going to make Thresh a really hard to bring down champion. These shields, however, can also be used on other targets, so they're going to be hard to bring down as well. Of course, you're also going to have that Sightstone, so you will be able to roam around the map and drop your wards so your team has vision. For your boot options, you first have Boots of Mobility if you're looking to roam and get some picks, Ninja Tabis against high AD teams, and Merctrez against high AP and CC heavy teams. For your item pool, we first have the Redemption. This is a really strong item on Thresh, and it's pretty much core. It's going to give Thresh a really strong AoE heal, which is great for helping your team sustain through team fights. Now you also have the option of going for a Knight's Vow if you wish to attach yourself to your AD carry. This is going to make both of you just a little bit stronger, and as long as your AD carry is pretty decent, it's a really good buy. If you're then looking for some extra help to engage, you could get a Righteous Glory. The movement speed on activation is a great way to get Thresh into a team fight. He won't have to rely on just his Q ability. Next up, we have the Frozen Heart. This is a really solid item if you are against champions that do rely on their attack speed, since you do lower it, and you're also going to be a very tanky champion while also getting 20% CDR. A fantastic item. For the next item, we have Zeke's Convergence. This is a great way to increase your allies' damage and also apply a slow. It's a great item for team fighting. Then, if you're looking to help get your allies out of crowd control if there is multiple on the enemy team, you may want a Mikhail's. As soon as they eat a long duration CC, make sure you use this ability on them to break the crowd control. Then finally, if you're against a very heavy AD team, you can get the Thornmail. This is going to make you a very hard to bring down champion while also reflecting damage onto the enemy. For the example full build, we take that core build, some Boots of Mobility, a Redemption, and a Knight's Vow. You're going to be a very tanky champion that provides your team a lot of stuff with a Knight's Vow, Redemption, and a Locket, making them very hard to bring down as well. And that's all I've got for Support Thresh. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you guys did enjoy the video, and please also check out the video description below. I have linked to all my social medias and of course my Twitch and my Discord server as well. If you do need any additional help, please hop into the Discord server. There are many people there that would be glad to help you. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, have a good day, and peace.